Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you all for joining. We are going to start a new chapter today from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga. The very first verse. I'm going to recite in Sanskrit and then we'll see the translation. Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Cheta Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardhanam Tat Kim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? A very powerful question. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we can see here in chapter 2, which we concluded last Tuesday, we learned the basic foundation of Bhagavad Gita, the difference between the body and the soul. And we also noticed from chapter 1 onwards through 2 that Arjuna is lamenting. Arjuna is a warrior. He's a Kshatriya. His prescribed duty is to fight in the war. But here he is along with the Supreme Lord Krishna, and he's lamenting and he's in grief. And Krishna has started speaking to Arjuna, giving him knowledge so that he can deliver himself from this grief. So this is what we learned up till chapter number 2, where of course we learned a lot, but the basic thing was to understand that we are not this body, but we are the spirit soul. Now today we start with a new chapter, which is Karma Yoga, which is also in a way called Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi means intelligence, and it also, Buddhi Yoga also means Bhakti Yoga, which means we are performing yoga with the help of knowledge. It's not random. It's not blind faith. No, we are using knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita and then performing Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, or it's also called Krishna consciousness, which means we are taking the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita and we are acting as per those instructions, not randomly, not according to what we think. And Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga can be performed only in association with like-minded people, with spiritual people. That is how we will be able to really perform Buddhi Yoga properly. And that will also help us to use our intelligence and contemplate on what we are hearing from the Bhagavad Gita. It's not that if I say da, 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 and then you say, oh, okay, I accept it. No, we got to use our intelligence and think about it, contemplate on it. And to really put that knowledge into practice, training is very essential. In fact, we take anything that we want to learn in this material world, whether it is dancing, music, singing, karate, software, anything, training is very important. Training from a bona fide teacher. So here we can see that Arjuna's question, from his question, it looks like that he thought that Buddhi Yoga or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge as retirement from active life and to practice austerities and penance in seclusion. This is what his idea is, that, well, Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga or whatever it may be, it means that give up everything, give up all your work, give up your prescribed duties, and probably go to the Himalayas or some mountains and somewhere and just live in seclusion. No. Here, Arjuna is very skillfully trying to avoid to fight. Why? Because on the opposite side, the opposite army contains all his, not all, most of his friends, his relatives, his grandfather, his teacher. So he is reluctant to fight. And that is why he's skillfully trying to, tell Krishna that, oh, well, I think this is what it should be now. But a sincere student, always inquires what is the best course of action. So now the first step Arjuna has taken by asking a question to Krishna. And that is a sign of intelligence. When we inquire, that means we are using our intelligence. And the philosophical intelligence that the human beings have is specially meant to end the cycle of misery. It is meant to attain permanent peace and happiness. That is why this philosophical intelligence is there, which is not there in the animals. It's only in human beings. So now that Arjuna has asked this question, what was the question he asked? He said, O Janardana, that's another name of Krishna. O Keshava, that's also another name of Krishna. Why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? So what does Arjuna continue? In the next verse, he says, my intelligence is bewildered. How many of us are bewildered in this material world? There is so much bewilderment, there's so much confusion, there is so much, cannot decide, do this or not, is this right, is it wrong? And we try to get guidance from others, we try to get some help, but basic problems of life are actually kept aside. People do not really use their intelligence to get answers to the basic questions in life. What are those basic questions? Who am I? If one of you will ask me, who am I? The first thing I will say is something to do with this body. I'll say, I'm Gita. My name is Gita. But that name is for this body. It wasn't the same name in the previous life. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the same in the next life, in the next body, right? If supposing my next body is that of a cat, I don't think anyone is going to name their cat Gita. That's very unusual. But the point is that people do not inquire, who am I? What is my real identity? And Bhagavad Gita tells us from chapter 2 onwards that we are spirit soul. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. This is our constitutional position. We are parts of the Supreme Lord. We are his children, and we are the spirit soul. Just like the Lord is spiritual, we are also spiritual beings. But right now we are in the human body. So these are the basic questions. Who am I? Why am I suffering? And more intelligent question would be, how can I stop this suffering? So here Arjuna, he's saying, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Now he's putting the ball back in the court of Krishna. He's saying, your instructions are confusing me. You are telling me do this and do that also, and I am confused. And therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. What an intelligent question. If we do not know the answer to our questions, if we are confused or bewildered, best thing is to approach a teacher for guidance. So here, Arjuna is inquiring because he wants to remove his confusion. He wants Krishna to give him a very organized outline of the path. He wants him to tell him in very clear, simple terms what he should do. Now, Krishna, he had no intention of confusing Arjuna. No. Arjuna is actually inquiring for our benefit. Imagine if Arjuna did not ask these questions, Krishna would not have answered, and we wouldn't have had Bhagavad Gita, and today we wouldn't be sitting and discussing the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna is actually asking these questions to clear the path of Bhakti Yoga for us, to show us with the help of Krishna that whoever is serious in understanding the Bhagavad Gita, whoever is interested in hearing what is beneficial for me, then this Bhagavad Gita is apt for that person. That should be our goal in life. You know, the goal in life is not just eat, sleep, and be merry. That the animals also are doing, eating, sleeping, and being merry. But for us, it is way beyond that. So we must understand from the Bhagavad Gita what is right for us, what is wrong for us. You know, most people are bewildered, and the simple reason is lack of knowledge. Because there is no knowledge, because there's no training, because there's no guidance, there is no teacher. So then there is so much confusion, and then confusion leads to lamentation. So here, Arjuna is unable to figure out how he can end his own suffering. What is he suffering from? He's suffering from having to kill his own kinsman. He's suffering because he sees his loved ones standing against him in the battlefield to fight with him. So he doesn't know, so he's inquiring from Krishna how I can end this suffering. So basically, Arjuna wants Krishna to explain to him very systematically and clear all the confusion. Let's see what is verse number 3. Now the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Now, in chapter number 2, Krishna had talked a little bit about Sankhya Yoga. That is also one form of yoga. And he also talked a little bit about Karma Yoga. Now, what is Sankhya Yoga? In a very precise way I can explain is that it is just an analytical study of the nature of matter and spirit. That's it. That is Sankhya Yoga. And what is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is same as Bhakti Yoga. It is same as Buddhi Yoga, which means it is working in that consciousness that I want to please the Supreme Lord, following the instructions of the Supreme Lord, and not desiring to enjoy the fruits of our activities. And when one does that, then one gets relief from bondage of all actions, bondage of reactions. Then a person leads a karma-free life. So here Krishna is talking about two kinds of people that are there who try to realize the self. As I was explaining before, Krishna has talked about that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul, that is the self. So here, to realize the self through mental speculation or philosophical speculation or through devotional service. You know, Srila Prabhupada has explained very nicely that religion without philosophy is just sentiment. That means we are doing some religious activities, but there is no backing to it, no philosophy. There is no backing of the Vedic scriptures. It's just, you know, performing it, just, you know, following it. That is just sentiment. But if you see the other way around, philosophy without religion is mental speculation. So you got to be very careful. We need to have both, and they should all depend on knowledge from the scriptures. So what is the purpose to understand the self? The purpose is, once we understand that I am not this body, we will stop operating on the bodily concept of life. That means we will not live our lives just thinking about the body. How can I please my body? My eyes want to see something nice. My ears want to hear something nice. And my senses want to enjoy. That is just part of the body. But what about the real us, the self, the real spirit soul, which is inside the body? What about that? We need to have a goal to connect the self, which is the spirit soul, with the super soul, with the supreme self, the supreme Lord. This is that relationship that is very, very important. And when we start performing some service, what kind of service? Service with devotion. Now, if, a husband wants, wife to serve him, probably dinner or whatever, she just takes the food and she bangs it on the table. There you go. That's your dinner. That's not service, right? It should be made with love and served with love. That is service with love and devotion. So that also applies when we do service for the Supreme Lord. It has to be with love and devotion. So when we start practicing Bhagavad Gita theory part, putting it into practice, which is the practicals, that will take us to a state where there is no more bewilderment, there is no more lamentation, there is no more confusion. So if one takes up, performing activities in consciousness of Krishna, in consciousness of the Supreme Lord, then the purification will take place, which means the purification of the senses, purification of the mind, purification of the intelligence, purification of the body. All this will start happening. But of course, the basic foundation will be faith. So whatever we are hearing from the Bhagavad Gita, if we at least have basic faith that Bhagavad Gita was spoken, re-spoken by Krishna in India on the battlefield of Kurukshetra 5,000 years ago, and based on the Vedic scriptures, the essence of the Vedas is the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, then we can build on that faith with the help of knowledge. We can make it firm with knowledge and association with like-minded people. So the ultimate goal is to understand the Bhagavad Gita. The ultimate goal is to understand the Supreme Lord and our relationship with him. So if we start performing our activities, see, this chapter is entitled Karma Yoga. Karma means activities. So it is interrelated. We have to perform our activities in such a way that it actually goes smoothly like a yoga, practice. It's a practice. So when we perform activities in consciousness of Krishna, it becomes beneficial for us. Now that is Arjuna's question. What is beneficial for me? So here, Krishna is going to give him a direct process, a direct method, and that is devotional service. Now, if I want to go from Atlanta, I live in Atlanta. If I want to go from Atlanta to New York, if I'm intelligent, I should take a direct flight from Atlanta to New York and back. Simple. But if I don't have knowledge and if I don't have guidance, then, and I use my own speculation, then I say, oh, you know what? Best way to reach New York is I go from Atlanta to Miami, then I go to Houston, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. Wow, I reach my destination. How much time and money I have wasted? Direct method. Say here Krishna is going to teach Arjuna a very direct process by which we can end the miseries of our life, and we can also, while being in this body itself, remain happy and peaceful, no lamentation, satisfied in all situations. Let's see what is verse number 4. Krishna says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection? So there are 2 points. He's explaining indirectly that the nature of the soul is to be active all the time. Imagine if we were put in one dark room, no one to talk to, nothing to do. How long can we sit there? Actually, we won't be able to sit in one place because that's not our nature. The nature of the soul is to be active all the time. And so inactivity is not an option. There's no option that we don't do anything. You know, sometimes people get tired or fed up of family life or fed up of job or fed up of everything around or friends or whatever it may be, fed up of life actually. You know, so then they think, let me give up everything and let me go to some faraway place, secluded place where no one is going to disturb me. Is that the solution? Maybe there is no one around, but the mind is not going to let you rest in peace. The mind is very turbulent and obstinate. It is very, very difficult to control. So here, Krishna is telling Arjuna, do not think that you won't do anything. You will not fight in this battle. You're just going to sit or you're just going to go to the mountains. No, inactivity is not an option. But if one, directs one's activities in such a way, following the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita, changing the consciousness, dovetailing the activities in such a way that everything gets purified, as I was telling earlier. Mind, senses, intelligence, body, everything gets purified. Now one may say, I'm pure. I shower twice a day. I'm pure. No. Here, purification that is being referred to is purification of the heart. There are a lot of unwanted things in the heart. There's a very nice Sanskrit verse. It says, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya Anartha Nivriti. There is first basic faith. Then when one has faith, they start associating with spiritually minded people. And then there is, that is called sadhu sangha, like, meeting with them, talking to them, hearing from them, learning from them. And then bhajana kriya, then there is practice. Practice, which means whatever they are hearing, they are putting it into practice in their day-to-day life. And then there is anartha nivriti. Anarthas means unwanted things which are in the heart. Nivriti, they all come out from the heart. What are those unwanted things? Lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, jealousy. There's so many unwanted things in the heart. Maybe they are in little degree, maybe they are in, in a big degree or whatever it may be. But most of us have those unwanted things in the heart. So here, Krishna is saying that just because you renounce everything, that doesn't mean, it leads to purification. No. If one renounces, just out of mental speculation, I'm done with this world and I'm renouncing. No, that will not lead to purification at all. Without the purification of the heart, there will be no success. A person will again come back to square one, and that will be a disturbance to the society. But if someone takes up to devotional practice, to spiritual practice in day-to-day life, then one will have the spiritual strength to overcome difficulties. That is what here Krishna is trying to say. Inactivity is not an option. Let's see verse number 5. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Right now, we are sitting and we are hearing. Are we just still? No, we are moving. Even I have to move because, the back starts hurting, or the shoulders start hurting. We are active, we are all the time moving. We cannot sit still at all. That is the nature of the soul, to be active. The body is moving because there is soul inside the body. And of course, the dead body has no value at all. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of a research that was done by Harry Monson. Harry Monson, you can Google and see. Harry Monson had done research and had concluded the value of a dead body, a value of a body that has no spirit soul inside it. The spirit soul has already left the body. What is the value of that dead body based on the whatever leftover chemicals that may be there? $5.60. That is the value of the body that we are so attached to, right? We are worshiping our bodies every day. We try to enjoy the body every day. How are we able to do that? Because the soul is inside the body. Once the soul leaves the body is no use at all. So the spirit soul should be engaged in spiritual activities. But what happens when the spirit soul has come in contact with this material energy? We are in this material world, this material nature is there. So then we acquire these modes of material nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. These are the three modes of material nature. Of course, we learn more about these three modes in chapter 14, but here Krishna is just touching a little bit on the modes of material nature to let us know that because we are in contact with material energy, we acquire these modes and then we behave accordingly. If we are going to, associate with those who are in the mode of ignorance, obviously that mode is going to rub off on us. If we are going to eat food in the mode of passion, obviously we are going to operate in the mode of passion. So this is how these modes of material nature affect our day-to-day life. So it is very important that we engage our mind, our intelligence, and our senses in doing prescribed duties. Just like if when we fall sick, we go to the doctor. The doctor diagnoses the ailment and then gives a prescription. It's not that it's the same prescription for all diseases. It is different. So when the doctor gives the prescription, then it is our choice. Do we want to get that prescription filled at the pharmacy? Okay, yes, fine. We bring the medication home, but then we still have a choice. Do we want to take that medication? Okay, some may not want to take it, but do we want to complete the dosage? That is another point. So we have choices at every step. So if we engage in prescribed duties, which are prescribed for our nature, for our situation, family situation, or whatever it may be, but it should be based under the instructions of the scriptures. It should be done under the guidance of a teacher. So here, renouncing anything or renunciation or any purificatory process that is there, it should be used to help us to increase our consciousness towards the Supreme Lord. It should help us to become more and more conscious of ourselves and the Supreme Lord and our relationship with the Supreme Lord. In chapter 2, we saw that Krishna told Arjuna, you please do your prescribed duty. You act according to the scriptures, but you do it in a detached mode. Don't be attached. We unfortunately get so attached to our activities. And then in that passionate nature, we just go ahead, go and go and go. And then there comes a time when there is a breaking point. I just remembered a story I had heard. There was this gentleman, he was very passionate about his work. you know, what they call them is workaholic. He was a workaholic, and he had 3 jobs. So he would go to first job, and then from there go to the second one. And by the time he was done with the third one, it was pretty late at night. It was midnight. And he was so engrossed in his work that one day he had to call his wife, and he said, oh, you know, I've entered the subdivision, but I've forgotten what's the house number. You know, I don't remember where the house is. You know, he was so much involved in his work. And then she tried to guide him. She said, okay, I'm going to come outside and stand at the driveway, and then you will know, you know, which house it is. So then his next question was, what do you look like? You know, he had forgotten what his wife looked like, because he was so engrossed in his work, doing 3 jobs. That is extreme. It's like, you know, you take a rubber band, you keep pulling, and then when you pull beyond a certain limit, then it snaps, then it breaks. So here in, of course, chapter 2, Krishna told Arjuna that you please do your prescribed duty, but do not be attached to the result. Do not think, am I going to win the war, or am I going to lose the war? Are my family members going to die in the war? What is going to happen? No, Krishna said, you perform your prescribed duty in a detached mode, but it should be based on knowledge. Let's see what Krishna says in verse number 6. We'll do up to 8. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender, which means we are pretending to be renounced, but we are only thinking of enjoying. I want to exploit this one. I want to enjoy this sense or that sense. No. There are many pretenders who want to make a show. You know, they want to show that, oh, I'm very calm and peaceful. You know, I am very spiritually inclined, everything outwardly, but inwardly, there's a hurricane going on in the mind, you know, that, oh, this is what I want to do after this. And then this is, mind is all the time dwelling on how I can enjoy. So actually pretenders are cheaters. So we need to be very careful, you know, when we are, say today you are hearing the Bhagavad Gita. So you got to be careful, who are you hearing it from? Am I a pretender? You got to know. Am I a cheater? How will you know? A very simple check and balance. Simple, very simple. In chapter 4, we will learn not only the history of the Bhagavad Gita, but also how this knowledge has come down. So I don't know how many of you have this Bhagavad Gita as it is. Afterwards, I'll put the link to this book. You know, you can even read it online. But when you come to the introduction, at the very end of the introduction, you will see that there is a list. There is a list of the spiritual teachers. And the very first spiritual teacher, the supreme teacher, is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. He spoke it to Brahma. Brahma spoke it to Narada. Narada spoke it to Vyasadeva. You know, so it has come down in a very strict disciplic succession. We will learn this in chapter 4. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshi vidu. This is what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, that this Bhagavad Gita should be heard in a strict disciplic succession. And the very last person in the last teacher in this list of this authorized bona fide succession is Srila Prabhupada. And you will see the picture of Srila Prabhupada on the back of the Bhagavad Gita. He is the one who has given us the translations and purports, translations as it is with no addition, subtraction. And his disciple, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and I am the disciple of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. So whatever you are hearing, you're hearing as it is. I have no authority to give my opinions, because we human beings have 4 defects. We have imperfect senses, we have tendency to cheat, we make mistakes, and we are in illusion. So when we have 4 defects, then we are imperfect. So imperfect people cannot give perfect knowledge, which is the Bhagavad Gita. So we have to be very careful from whom are we taking on this knowledge, because if they are pretenders, then their knowledge has no value, because they are giving their own interpretations, they are giving their own thoughts, their own ideas. No. So if the heart is not pure, the mind is going to dwell on sense enjoyment. And that is actually delusion. So such a person, it becomes very hard to control the senses. But with proper guidance, proper training, and proper knowledge, it's possible to do that. It's not difficult at all. So here, Krishna is talking about an attached renunciate, right? And an detached householder. So one may be living in a family life, is not a renunciate, has not given up everything. He is still with the family, or she is still living with the family, is still working, making ends meet, maintaining the body and soul together, doing the prescribed duties, but is detached from the fruits of those activities. That is real renunciation. That is what Krishna is talking about. Let's see what is in verse number 7. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is far superior. So he's making it very, very clear. So this verse is talking about a dutiful householder is better than a pretender. This is what he's. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that one must execute the purpose of life. Get free from this bondage. Get free from this cycle of being born again and dying and born again and dying. Let us get out of this cycle of misery and go back to the spiritual world where we belong, because we are spiritual beings right now having human experience. So our home is the spiritual world, and Bhagavad Gita teaches us how we can go back to that spiritual kingdom. So for that, regulation is important. Even the service that we do, that regulation should be regulated. Then one will be able to come to the stage of self-realization. And here Krishna says, if a sincere person, that means if we make a choice that, yes, I definitely would like to become self-realized, I would definitely like to be at a stage where I'm happy and peaceful, then sincerity is the very first step. Sincere person. Then sincerity will lead us to follow this process. And Krishna says such a person is far better than a pretender. Then success is guaranteed. Then we will be able to control our mind and senses. Why? Because there's regulation. Say, for instance, I have some ailment. I go to the doctor. The doctor will give me medication, but will also give me a list of do's and don'ts. And that, what are those do's and don'ts? It's not that excuse me, it's not that the doctor doesn't like me and so the doctor is saying don't do this, don't do that. No, it's for my good. It's for my good health. So that regulation is actually helpful. The regulation can make us disease free. The regulation in life will help us to become sin free, just like Krishna addressed Arjuna as, "O sinless one." That means Arjuna was not a sinful person at all. He was sin free, sinless. So the purpose is to somehow or other free ourselves from this bondage, free ourselves from this cycle of misery, lead a regulated life, and life without any attachment. And if a sincere person starts following this, Krishna says such a person is better than a pretender. The last verse for today, which is number 8. Excuse me. Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. one cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. This is so true. If we do not go to work, if we do not earn a living, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to bring food on the table? We have to do it. So we have to work to maintain the body and soul together. So Arjuna was concerned that by working, he will become attached to that work. And then he will get so attached that he will start having too many desires, material desires. But Krishna doesn't want Arjuna to become a pretender. In fact, Krishna doesn't want us also to become pretenders. Krishna wants Arjuna to just do his prescribed duty. Even in this verse, number 8, he's telling Arjuna, please do your prescribed duty. You are a householder, Arjuna, so you should not renounce your work. You have to maintain your body. You have to maintain your family. So please do your prescribed duty. So that applies to us also. So we should perform our activities in such a way that we do not get attached to that work. Do the same work, do that same prescribed duty, just change the consciousness, change the idea behind working. Why am I working? Who am I trying to satisfy? If the goal is satisfying Krishna, the Supreme Lord, then we are on the right path. We don't have to change the work, we just have to change the consciousness in which we do that work. Now, next Tuesday, we are going to start with verse number 9, which is very, very, very important. It gives us a secret to lead a karma-free life, a secret to how to perform karma yoga. So here we, Krishna has been giving the theory part, and soon we will also start doing the practicals, because unless we put the theory into practice, there will be no realization. And today we heard so many times where Krishna is advising Arjuna about how to control the mind and senses. And that is very easily possible when we do mantra meditation, when we chant the holy names of the Lord. The sound vibrations, they go from the ear into the heart and they start purifying the heart. These sound vibrations are so very powerful. So it's my very humble request that if you all can please somehow or the other, try to do this mantra meditation, just a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes a day. And I'm going to, here in the chat box, I have posted some links, the Zoom link to this Tuesday class, Facebook page, WhatsApp group, YouTube channel, where all these lectures are already posted. And towards the end is the mantra for this age of hypocrisy in which we are living. That is the mantra for this age. So if y'all do not mind, we will just try to chant just for a few minutes, and then you can see the difference yourself. You can feel. So it's my humble suggestion that please look at the mantra which is there in the chat, and please chant with me. We will just chant for a few minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions or comments, you're most welcome to ask them.